Look who's stopping by. Big, huge trade in the NFL on Monday. I'm sure Gerry Dulac didn't expect one on July 30th, but neither did I. Steelers radio network host and longtime chronicler of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Gerry Dulac, back in the program. Good to see you, Gerry. How are you?
Rich, I'm good. I couldn't have been more surprised if I were Bobby Bonilla on July 1st getting the payout. I will say this: what didn't surprise me, Rich, is that they were willing to move on from Minkah Fitzpatrick. I was told about a month ago that they weren't going to actively shop him, but if somebody came a knocking, they would listen and be willing to make a deal because for what they're paying him, his lack of splash plays was not commensurate with the dollar figure he's getting. Minkah Fitzpatrick's a good football player, but you go over the last 2 years, there's no scoop and scores, there's no picks, there's no pick sixes, there's no game-changing plays, and you're paying him a lot of money to do that, and he wasn't doing that, and so they were willing to make a deal for him if the right one came along. So I'm not surprised that they made that move. I'm not surprised that they went and got Jalen Ramsey. Because that's just, Rich, there's a couple ways, there's a couple adjectives you can affix to this. And I don't know if it's urgency or desperation, but it's move after move with this team. And they've gotten away from their philosophy in free agency. Now, I realize this was a trade, but their philosophy in free agency was always get a guy heading into his second contract, whether he was 25 or 26, and hoping that his best years were ahead of him. All the moves they made the last couple of years are for guys whose best years are probably behind them. And so that's a departure from what they have historically done, but it points up that they are willing to do what they have to do to try and win a playoff game. That's what this is all about. They've made the playoffs for the last 5 years, but, they've 0-5. Mike Tomlin, 5 straight one and dones. And they're trying to change that, and I'll give them credit for doing everything they can, obviously, to change that. But, you have to be careful because a lot of these guys, I love golf analogies. If they're on the back nine of their career, to me, they're putting out on the 12th green. So it's different from what they've historically have done.
But that said, I mean, when you got a 41-year-old quarterback, right?
Right.
Like, this is it. The eggs are all in the 2025 basket. And so, bringing in Ramsey would make sense, even with having Darius Slay and Joey Porter Jr. You're now strengthening that back end, despite losing Fitzpatrick. But you pointed out the lack of splash plays, and now you're bringing in a tight end that Arthur Smith at least knows, right? Who isn't on the back nine. I mean, he just came off of the best year of his career in Jonnu Smith. So if you're wondering who the pass catchers are going to be at the wide receiver position, why not add a tight end of Smith's capability? Yes,
well,
Gerry, is that
the
mindset?
Rich, I mean, he'll be their third tight end. What he is he's Michael Pruitt, but a better version. He's an upgrade over that. He's a guy who can play tight end. He's a guy who can line up at wide receiver, and he's a guy who can line up at fullback, and that's exactly what Arthur Smith wanted when he brought in one of his former players, Michael Pruitt, and it's the same thing with Jonnu Smith. So, I think the other thing in play here, when you look at Jonnu Smith perhaps lining up outside or in the slot, you're talking about a guy 6'3", 6'4", almost 250 pounds. You're bringing in Jalen Ramsey, another physical, tough hombre, and you look at what they did in the draft where Mike Tomlin openly admitted they're interested in physicality, and that goes back to DK Metcalf. They are trying to become more of a physical football team, and everybody knows they're a physical football team. But after the way they got pushed around twice by the Baltimore Ravens, they don't want to get pushed around again. So physicality has been a big emphasis on this in this offseason. And Jalen Ramsey and even Jonnu Smith are factors in that. Now, Jonnu Smith isn't brought in to be a game changer. He's not that kind of player. He's going to be a complementary player. But Jalen Ramsey obviously has the ability to be that.
Gerry Dulac here on the Rich Eisen Show. The subtext to all this, too, Gerry, the background noise that popped into the foreground in the aftermath of this trade on Monday is T.J. Watt. And the fact that he is looking for a new contract, and Jalen Ramsey is brought on and given a $1.5 million raise to bring his salary to 26 and change this year. And Jonnu Smith's salary goes from $4 million to $12 million. Some were saying might not sit well with TJ Watt, who's looking for his. What can you tell us about this situation, Gerry?
Well, Rich, what I can tell you is that these moves have, and I've been told, have nothing to do with any negotiations with TJ Watt. The stalemate is going to be that TJ Watt, wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. And the Steelers are looking at it that he's age 31. In order to accommodate any kind of large contract, it can't be a 3-year deal. It has to be a 5-year deal because you need to spread the money out in terms of the guarantee and the signing bonus over 5 years, not 3. And now you're looking at TJ Watt being age 36. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, as you get closer, they can change it up and move on from him if they choose to do that. But I'm bringing all this up because it's not a smart business decision for the Steelers, and they know it. And that's what they're weighing. They want to bring TJ Watt back. They did see a decline in his performance last year, but they tend to pay guys for their past performance as much as what they feel they can still do. They believe they will sign TJ Watt, but something's going to have to give because the Steelers know even if they sign him, it's probably not the smartest business decision. And let's face it, Rich, they're not the Jets or the Browns. They've had a history of making smart business decisions. I'm sure they will do it again, but that's kind of going to be the conundrum in these negotiations with TJ Watt. But this last move with Jalen Ramsey has no bearing, I was told, on anything financially that will happen with TJ Watt.
No, and that makes sense. It's just, again, Watt sitting there and saying, I deserve to be paid, and two guys who haven't played it down for the Steelers are brought on and given raises. And, it's not like the Steelers don't want to give him a raise. They just don't want to give him the raise above Myles Garrett and look at that as a business decision. But that said, Gerry, I mean, again, all the eggs are in the 2025 basket. How do they play footsie with TJ Watt? How is that possible?
That's what we're going to find out. And if TJ Watt sticks to wanting to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league, then they're going to have a problem. Look, Rich, the Steelers do have, the leverage. They can have him play out his final year, and they could put the franchise tag on him if they want to. The Steelers don't play hardball for the most part with their stars. Maybe some other players, but not with their stars. And so I don't think they're just going to all of a sudden relent to TJ Watt, but that's what we're going to find out. And that's why I said it's going to be a headbutt, and we're going to see who butts heads the hardest here. And is TJ Watt willing to acquiesce a little, or the Steelers going to sit there and go, you know what? Okay, let's just pay him and we'll worry about the rest later. So, that's what we're going to find out. This isn't going to be as easy as the last contract for TJ, where he was in his prime. And I'm not saying he doesn't have good years left, but they saw a little bit of a decline last year. And again, at age 31, they want to be very careful how long, how much and how long this contract is for. But they don't have much option other than a 5-year deal with any kind of significant money. And to your earlier point, Rich, DK Metcalf, 5 years, $150 million, the biggest contract they've ever handed. TJ Watt's going to sit there and go, whoa, you're giving this guy that kind of money. I think you got to do something even above that for me.
Yeah. I mean, you can't blame him either.
No,
I mean, to
not
be
at
very
all.
honest,
I don't blame him.
These are three guys that have yet to play a down for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And TJ Watt, I mean, you obviously just look at Acrisure. How many 90 jerseys are there? You know what I mean? And so what do you think? When is midnight strike? Every team has a different sense of when midnight strikes. What is it, do you think, for this deal, Gerry?
I think midnight strikes after August 23rd or whatever that Thursday is, the last preseason game against Carolina, and sometime between the 23rd or whatever that date is. I don't have the calendar in front of me, Rich, but in September 7th, the season opener. So sometime between there. As I said, the Steelers want to and believe they will sign TJ Watt. He's TJ Watt. Trading Minkah is not going to cause a big furor among the fan base. There are probably people, well, I know there are, because I already hear them griping about maybe it's time to move on from TJ Watt. They're not willing to do that. So this is a different animal than Minkah Fitzpatrick. You could see that one coming, at least so far as much as I was told. It's not on their radar to trade TJ Watt. So that's not going to happen. But we're going to find out, where it stands. But I think it'll go through training camp personally, Rich. Wow. But before the regular season.
So if you say midnight strikes around August 23rd, when does midnight strike for the time Mike Tomlin will not take any more questions on TJ Watt, Jerry? When does that midnight strike?
Well, I think that was yesterday.
Okay. Thanks for the time, Jerry. You're the best, man. Thank you.
Rich, always good being with you, my friend.
Yeah, we'll chat around training camp, that's for sure. That's Gerry Dulac right here on the Rich Eisen Show at the Steelers side of things. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.